Okay. The man in the box, Marc. I forgot the other words. Way to go. Way to go. That was some good guitar and bad karaoke there, all at the same time.
First karaoke ever. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry New Year.
Merry New Year. Exactly.
Yes. I bought that movie.
Singles or
Oh,
Trading Places?
Trading Places.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was on sale for $4.
On Apple TV?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Will you be heading on?
What does it mean that you bought this movie on Apple TV? What does it mean, physically speaking?
What do you mean?
Doesn't really own it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm renting it for perpetuity. You know?
Oh, wow. Is
Until
perpetuity
Apple goes out of
forever?
business.
Infinite? Like,
Yeah, for infinity,
how
for
long is
till the
perpetuity?
next asteroid hits our planet and
Right.
wipes all humanity off.
And Leonard, you need to switch your microphone from music to voice, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible. Hold on. Let me see. Display speakers. Yeah.
Hey, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi there. I'm
Wow.
on video today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to deal with technical difficulties live. So, hey, talk amongst yourself. Maybe welcome our IoT Coffee Talk folks.
Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk. Hope everybody in the Estados Unidos had a great Thanksgiving, with lots of turkey and dressing and gravy and maybe mashed potatoes and cranberries and blah, 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 blah. And I made a cherry pie. So there's that. And, what's really important to know about this cherry pie, unlike most cherry pies, I use kind of the sour pitted cherries, that are really tart. Normally you're thinking of sweet cherries. But the recipe has like a cup and a half of sugar and some cinnamon, stuff like that. And so I think the sweet and sour kind of go together and it makes a unique tasting cherry pie. And I know that's what everybody cares about this morning after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Do you put pork in it or?
Did you say pork?
Yeah. Sweet and sour pork. Sounds like a
Yes.
dish. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk and happy Thanksgiving. What? Oh, yes. And we appreciate your viewership, by the way, through almost 5 years, going on 5 years.
What?
We're going strong. We are going to consume as much YouTube storage, as possible, because we have these really long episodes that take up terabytes. Eventually, we're going to get to petabytes of IoT Coffee Talk, which someone's going to try to train a model on, and it's going to be insanity. It's going to be the worst LLM ever created. Right?
What if we tried to train a model on our videos ourselves and see what comes? I mean,
I think it would look like about 99% of the crap that we see that's GenAI generated clips and stuff.
Or it could be the gateway to the future.
Yeah.
You never know.
It could be. You never know.
I say
doubt
that
it, but
let's
yes.
download Llama and
Yeah.
see what happens,
Yes. And so, hey, we have to give a shout out to Elevate Our Kids. We have a donation drive going on right now. We're trying to raise a modest $25,000 to get laptops and connectivity to children K through 12 who live in the digital divide. And there seems to be this persistent issue with digital divides. And we're hoping that your donations, your generosity will help bridge that digital divide. And so just go to www.elevateourkids.org and make a donation. It's really easy. And if you're not into charity in this giving season, but you are into fashion, you can indirectly contribute and show love to humanity by buying one of these IoT Coffee Talk merch. Yes, you can find it on the elevateourkids.org website, and we hope you'll donate. And hopefully this year we'll meet our donation target, right?
Any minute now.
Yes. Yes, and the donations are rolling in, which is a great thing. So.
You don't have to wait till you come to our live Eras tour concert for IoT Coffee Talk to buy the merch at the concert venue. You can do it now online, but then you can tell your friends you got it at the show, and how out of control it was. And you had floor seats, so you got to be really up close with Marc.
Yes.
He was like right there on stage,
Yeah, gigantic as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie, have you ever met Marc before?
I don't think so.
In person? You know what? I haven't met you in person yet, which is incredible after all these years.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
It's a sin, quite honestly. It's wrong on many, many levels.
What we should do is we just hop on airplanes and we meet at some centrally located airport.
Yeah.
Maybe. Since this is a tech-oriented show, there's stories, like when you hear about like the whole accidental empires or triumph of the nerds and how things went back in the 70s and 80s with the PC revolution, and you have Bill Gates over here and Steve Jobs over here. So anywho, I hear rumors that back in the day, IBM was the biggest player in the world, right? By far. And so you had these little upstart companies, Microsoft and Compaq Computer and Intel with their chips. And those Andy Grove from Intel, Rod Canyon from Compaq Computer, and Bill Gates from Microsoft, I don't know if it was like on a monthly basis, but on some frequency, they literally would just secretly pick an airport and all of them would fly from their home locations to that airport to meet, to talk about, to conspire, if you will, of how they're going to take down IBM and take over this whole computer revolution, which is really interesting to me to think about them having powwows and trying to figure that stuff out,
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, because,
interesting.
They were all, in the shadow of IBM at the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a way that you can kind of see the PayPal mafia kind of doing the same thing. They're all interconnected, and I'm sure they talk to each other all the time. They have huge amounts of capital, which is a different situation. But
pretty interesting stuff,
Yeah, it is.
I
although I don't see, I listened to an entire talk. Actually, it was a lecture that Dylan Patel, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He is the founder of Semi-Analyst. He's blowing up in the GenAI supercomputing world, right? He gave a talk at Stanford, to a class about GenAI supercomputing, and it was interesting because you walk into that bubble, it just looks incredible what's happening, right? And the scale that people are talking about in terms of the computing, the energy requirements, the XYZ of all this stuff related to generative AI. It's amazing. But at the end of that whole session that he gives, if you step outside of that bubble, you really ask the question, why? And why are they building these massive models, and for who? Because what's absolutely clear is that no matter how much you scale these models, the model, okay, it doesn't get better. There are all these machinations. Now what they're coming up with all kinds of new, layered concepts. They're there to address the deficiencies and limitations of the actual technology itself. They only require more and more and more compute with diminishing improvements with each cycle of quote unquote innovation. And so who's going to benefit from all this stuff? And it really makes you wonder, right? And what are these guys actually pursuing, if not like massive computing for themselves, like a small community of very rich people who are hoping they're going to have an edge over everyone else, right? And maybe that's the IBM. That's that new IBM that's being built up, right? Because IBM got to become that behemoth somehow, right? And for some reason. And I think it was because they tapped into a very, very premium, exclusive, very expensive technology that might have given them an edge, or did give them an edge.
You could also say they had a first mover advantage just in computers in general, in mainframes.
That's true.
Back in the day, there weren't a lot of companies building big computers way, way, way back. If you go back to the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, and so the handful, just like, every new product category revolution, when it happens, it always starts off, lots of players, and then it consolidates down. It'd be interesting to know if there was such a thing in the world, the earliest days of IBM. IBM was totally intertwined with the government, in the early days. But like when when the PC revolution happened, we used to have dozens, maybe hundreds of different PC makers. All going after it. It's like, I'm sure Marc still has his Osborne computer, and Debbie probably has her Commodore 64. There was
an Amstrad and an IBM.
And so just so many players, and then you see consolidation. But IBM's early, but obviously there's so many cautionary tales to learn from this. Because IBM ultimately collapsed and became a semi-irrelevant company, in the early 90s. And so it's like, why did that happen? What did they see coming? You know what? I know I sound like a broken record. I sound like the great historian of tech, but I love teaching history. And there's all this stuff and all these documentaries are so interesting that you can get, So I would highly recommend. So Leonard was talking about how he bought a video on Apple TV. You can also go check out Silicon Cowboys. You can buy it for probably just a few dollars on Apple TV or somewhere else. That's about Rod Canyon and the guys who started Compaq Computer. Those guys were Texas Instruments engineers. And very just like, remember when Steve Jobs and Wozniak got together? Remember Wozniak was so paranoid when they're building the Apple I on a piece of plywood and all that kind of stuff. And Woz was he was a real rule follower guy, right? And he was, and remember, he went and got permission. He felt that because he was working for HP at the time, and he went to say, "Hey, we're building this. Does HP want a computer? Do they ever want anything like this?" And they said, "No, we don't want it. You're good to go." But he was so paranoid about that, about getting permission to do that. And you saw other players at the same time, going in these different, and so these engineers, Rod Canyon and a couple other engineers at Texas Instruments, they did the same thing. They had this vision of a IBM compatible computer, but it was portable. But they went to their bosses at TI at the time and asked the same questions. And the guys at TI is like, well, no one's ever going to want something like that. Which is great. That's why I love the history of stuff, because either the naivety or arrogance or the whatever of different people, how they don't see the future that could be. Some people see it, and they have to have persistence to stay after it, And so Compaq starts building their stuff, and they become they created the clone computer industry because they reverse engineered the IBM BIOS, right?
Yeah.
Because if you were all remember, kids, when you were not alive yet, when you would buy software on your little floppy disks, it would say for IBM or 100% compatible IBM computers. And what they're referring to is if you were using what you would call a clone computer, which you don't probably know what that term means, if you were using a Dell or a Compaq or a Toshiba or whatever, it had to have a BIOS that was identical and compatible with the IBM BIOS because that was IBM controlled the world back then. But in the end, what happened?
So that opens an interesting discussion of how do you think today, if we go to the embedded world with ARM, RISC-V, and so on, or even NVIDIA, that I'm still not sure if they use ARM or not, GPUs or processors. So who decides what instructions need to support the next processor or not?
That's a great question.
So what patterns or what are the signs that they follow to decide, okay, in 2026, the processors will need to make these instructions faster than the versions.
For all you know, there could be some hackers doing a startup in Valencia, and they've reverse engineered CUDA and building their own way, open source way to program NVIDIA GPUs to accelerate AI. I don't know. But you're right. Who are we all copying, or who's the leader that we're trying to emulate? Or are you the woman in the Apple computer and she's spinning around and throws the hammer and destroys everything in 1984 and says, we're not going to play ball with you guys? That's super interesting. At the same time, you've got AMD, a distant second place in this race. What are they using to accelerate AI? I actually don't know. Did they build their own software, or is there a more open way to train models or train ML stuff like we've been doing in IoT forever using an AMD GPU, aka the ATI acquisition to get graphics cards way back when?
Yeah, I guess it really is a battle between NVIDIA's stack and then sort of this fragmented open.
We don't see you. I don't hear you well, Leonard.
Oh, really?
Is that because you're telling super interesting things and
pull that microphone in close?
Oh, you guys couldn't hear anything that I said?
No, we heard it. It just goes in and out.
Yeah, that's really terrible.
It's like
this big friggin' mic. I don't get it.
We need to see the mic probably in the window in our screen.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, pull it close.
It's for cosmetic purposes only.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is turning into this battle between NVIDIA and the rest of the world, right? But a lot of the attention is really still stuck on all this generative AI supercomputing, and how they do have a highly integrated stack. It's very difficult for everyone to come to market with something that matches number one, the flexibility of that stack.
Yeah.
So the scalability of that stack. And you hear Jensen talk about all the time that NVIDIA's ecosystem and stack is general purpose, right? And a lot of that is attributed to CUDA, but I think that it's also a bit of a misconception because you also have standards like CXL and like UA link. So a lot of these open standards that the other players are trying to drive that address, compute interconnect, as well as, you have Intel with their open API, which has taken a really long time to take root and start to.
No, you're absolutely right.
All these artifacts, that they're working on to provide an open alternative, but then there's always the politics, right, of open, and that slows everything down. While NVIDIA is just steamrolling ahead, just
And you know what?
leveling everything in their
I
path.
think speaking of open, here's the funniest thing I saw this week related to open anything. You may have seen this on the interwebs.
The most open operating system? What?
Yes,
Are they talking about Windows?
they're talking about Windows. So, this last week, Leonard, I think, Microsoft had their big event, their
That's
Ignite event in Chicago. And yes, one of the sessions, one of the execs gets out there for a keynote. Windows, the most open operating system. Pretty funny.
Yeah, let's talk about that in a minute. But Debbie's awfully quiet, and that's usually not her style. I do want to go back to your comment earlier about being a historian, right? I don't think that's a tired thing. I think more people should listen to us because we do bring up old.
The mic again in front of your mouth.
Are you serious?
We're serious, man. Maybe it's how like you shift between mic for music and guitar and mic for talking sometimes, like because if like sometimes when you're all it looks like you're frozen now.
How's this? Check 1, 2.
Now you're echoing, like you're in an echo, like you're in a warehouse.
Chamber?
Yeah, you're in a chamber.
Debbie, please.
Unbelievable.
Come on stage.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not on video today.
All right.
But yeah. I don't know. I saw an article today. Someone sent me an article today about I guess there were these robots in a factory. I don't know if you all saw this, where one of the robots was like, I don't know what exactly they said to each other, but apparently one of them got tired of doing their work, and then they led multiple other robots away from the work, and they were trying to get away. And I think they were stopped by a gate or something. Yeah, they're like, F this, I don't know what they said.
I think I saw something about that, and I saw a picture. You're right, where one robot was able to get all the other robots to follow that robot.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Yeah, right.
Rebellion. We're going to start a union of robots and factories.
Yeah. Right. It was funny because one of them said, like, I didn't have any breaks. I haven't been I'm just working straight. I haven't been getting any breaks. And you're like, screw this. Let's go.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Or maybe the robot said, at least let's, throw me a bone. Let's start off with, let's have robot smoke breaks. Could we?
Yeah, let's go.
There. A little baby step, something like that would be good.
You know what happened in Barcelona during one Mobile World Congress? So there was I think it was a metro drivers strike.
Yeah.
But then we had that year the Line 9, which goes straight to Mobile World Congress venue. But that's with automatic trains, so no drivers on those trains. So they forced the metro, the city hall, to stop as well, to put them on strike, the robots on strike.
That's funny. Now, so the comment I was going to make earlier is, Rob, you mentioned being a historian. I think it's important. I think more people should watch our show because we do bring up a lot of history. People forget history, even recent history. And, Debbie, you've been doing this whole privacy thing for a long time. You know how this whole conversation has evolved over years. And I know that you notice that people just forget stuff, right? And they lose their bearing constantly. And so it's good to have people out there like you, Rob, like Debbie, that bring the history forward and then present it in context so that people can be aware of where we are with things, because they don't actively track things like maybe you guys do and I do. And it's actually pretty essential. Otherwise, people repeat history. It's like, don't repeat, the bad parts of history. It's like, no, people do. And they lose their bearing and they just go with it. And
you're right.
How the bad stuff as well as the good stuff ended up happening in the past. So we repeat history all the time because we forget.
That famous quote, you're right. You're doomed to repeat it. If you don't pay attention and learn history, Sometimes we talk about, I know, especially with Pete and his brother over at GM, this whole deal of how lots of companies are so easily getting rid of their older workers who've been around and really know all about the company because they want lower cost kids who are in their 20s, right? But you lose company memory.
Yeah.
What is our company about? Because when you have new people come in that don't have any memory of where you came from, they'll make stupid mistakes, or they'll repeat things that had already been figured out by other people, right?
Yeah.
And quality goes down.
Everything. You need to document everything. Come on.
I saw a thing that someone had put on the internet, and I guess they were trying to tell the difference between, someone who's experienced and someone who can, maybe do part of the job but not be very experienced. And I guess the way that they put it, like, I guess they were assuming that whatever this person's fee was, it was high, and they were like, $1,000 an hour, let's just say. And they were like, so $1 an hour, he was using the analogy of someone like cutting a cable or cutting a cord, like, like you're trying to disable a bomb or something.
Like
it's like, okay,
the Chinese ship that cut the.
Yeah. So basically they were like, okay, if my fee is $1,000 an hour, $1 is someone, for me to cut the cable, and $999 is me to know what cable to cut.
That's right.
Right. So it's like you're losing a lot of that experience. And so just because you have someone who can, pantomime or mimic some activity that someone can do doesn't mean that they have any knowledge or skill or something that's going to really help you in the future. So
yeah. Imagine that for somebody who's trying to disarm a bomb that's in public, right?
Yeah, totally.
Knowing which cord to cut. Yeah, cutting the cord is an easy thing. It's like knowing which one is super consequential.
Cut the red cord. I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's all in the movies. It's all in the movies. Yeah.
Please, come on, people. Just believe.
Oh my gosh.
But I think your point about history is very important for a couple of reasons. One is a lot of things we're talking about, these companies, the moves that they're making, this is a very long game for them, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really about today, and it really doesn't, matter to them what they sell as long as you buy it, right? So like if it was a Chia Pet and you were going to pay billions of dollars, they'll sell you that, right? So I think to me, the really interesting thing is a lot of this sale, especially the hype around generative AI, is very different to me because they're basically saying, buy this thing, use it at your own risk. So,
yeah,
right. So you can't you can't say, hey, you bought me this and it doesn't work the way I told you to say it. But they've said, oh, we don't know how it works. We can't tell you how to do it. You know what I'm saying? So for them, it's great because they don't, typically when you sell a product, you have more responsibility around how it works or how someone implements it. So them being very hands off, this is like a huge deal for them, right? So they can sell, and then but the risk is really on you, the company, to figure out how to use it or not. So if you can't figure out how to use it, which I think a lot of people are just buying it because it's like fear of missing out or whatever. It's like it's no skin off their backs that you can't use it. Like you bought it, so that's your problem. That's not our problem.
Well, thankfully, everything is subscription based these days. So
yeah. Well, except for people buying a lot of the cloud storage, right? So that's kind of the chip makers are making a lot of money, and then the cloud storage people, because companies just haven't traditionally been really good at managing their data anyway. So them having more data just means I think it adds more confusion to them, and while they're figuring themselves out, they're paying like boatloads of money for like cloud storage and like very expensive compute and data centers and stuff like that.
Well, here's the interesting thing. If you listen to a lot of the OEMs and their the growth in their storage business, it's very tepid. It's almost flat compared to processors and these what they call AI accelerated compute. And so data is, I mean, and I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of enterprises are really not generating more data. They're dealing with the data that they have. And most of this compute is not even being used for enterprises, right? It's really like Elon Musk buying 100,000 H100 GPUs, stuffing into some ridiculous, data center in Memphis to just, I mean, for all we know, just for bragging rights. Yeah, sure, he's gonna train a model, but it's gonna suffer all the limitations of everyone else's models, right? Because the technology, like you said, is still experimental.
Wait a second, Leonard. Are you saying that Elon would do something for bragging rights?
Well, again, we're going back to the whole, caveat emptor buyer beware thing. So
Yeah.
if the company selling this thing had to, this is one reason why they don't want a lot of more regulation around this, because they want it to be kind of your fault and your problem.
Yeah.
So while your sell, is like, oh, I didn't know that this was gonna explode.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, you didn't read the fine print of 100 pages of, legalese and stuff like that. And that's like a really bad, dangerous thing. And I think it's really bad for businesses because they do get, the people who are signing the checks and making decisions, they don't know like what's under the hood. And they don't know what practical implication it will have for them and their business. So I think a lot of businesses are gonna, just for fear of missing out, they want to, be part of this movement, this train, to be able to say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and I don't know what the real benefit will be, but I also don't know that the company selling this really care about what that is, except that you buy what they sell.
Yeah, the picks and shovels. Yeah, basically. But going back to Ignite, Microsoft's Ignite, I didn't make it to the Chicago event. I was at a Qualcomm event. I was at their Investors Day where they were talking a lot about industrial IoT. They're making a big play into that. So I spent a lot of time in New York, but in Chicago, they were talking about so they always have their last segment of their keynote for some reason is the security and trust, the thing that they probably should put in front because the company's suffered so many security and trust issues over the years, and especially this year. And one of the things that they preface their talk on security is the whole criminal economy and how it's like third largest economy in the world. So last year it was 8 trillion in their estimate. I don't know how they come up with the numbers, but 8 trillion. This year they estimate it as 9.2 trillion. So that is growing pretty fast, right? That's like double, that's like pretty good double digit growth. And I don't know of any economy growing that fast. So this stuff, it'll probably be hypercharged with this generative AI technology. And I think we have to really take the criminal economy seriously, because as this thing continues to grow and gets enabled, it is sort of a cross-border legitimate, an illegitimate economy that legitimate economies have to contend with, right? And so the curious thing is going to be how much insurance organizations and individuals are going to have to pay in order to protect themselves from this economy, right? And that's the whole cybersecurity market, which sort of in a, Microsoft is in that game as well. and they're trying to sell their, Copilot for security solutions and stuff like that. So it sounds a little bit incestuous because they're enabling the technology that they're basing all this stuff is enabling that criminal economy. And how do we know, like, as they're providing cloud services, how do we know who's actually using this stuff, right? So there's a lot of talk about regulations. Maybe the first regulation you have to start to place that you start to regulate is, where do these cloud service providers and to whom do you sell these AI services? I know that sounds really horrible,
Well,
but
actually, no.
maybe that's where you have to start. It's like, know your customer, just like in banking. It's like, who the friggin' hell are you selling this to? Is it to some porn? Is it to Pornhub so they can create the next generation of, customizable, promptable porn experiences, or is it some criminal that's, issuing a, highly micro-targeted phishing campaign? How do you know?
Yeah, I think actually two things you mentioned that just got my wheels turning. One is that the U.S. government recently put something in place around data brokers. So data brokers are not supposed to sell personal data of people to quote unquote countries of concern. So countries that are on the State Department website as countries you're not supposed to sell data to, like China, Burma, Russia, I believe is on that list. And so so basically what they've done in that is kind of create an export control in a way. And so I can see that. I can see export control going to different countries, especially they want to thwart their, maybe not for a criminal, maybe more of like trade, right? Because we know trade, who has the chips, that's like, the money train right there. So being able to stop certain jurisdictions from being able to benefit from what's happening in the US with that, I could see them doing something like that. And then also, I think we need to think about criminal enterprises, right? Almost like a state actor. So a state actor without jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I think it should be interesting.
Yeah.
So state actors are enemy of the state.
Yeah.
Which I rewatched that movie on an airplane last week.
Oh, isn't it
remember that
prescient?
movie, Will Smith and Gene Hackman?
It was prescient, isn't it?
It was so interesting. I mean, it probably seemed more impactful when it came out in the 90s, with the NSA and how they're able to track you and follow you and get all this data. Today it seems like, oh, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
It turns out, obscurity is probably the best security. That's what it's turning out to be, right? I mean, for those data brokers and trying to, put a muzzle on those guys, I think it's too late. There's the dark web. All that stuff's out there. It's crazy, especially with all these data breaches. Oh my gosh. And the scale of the data breaches and all.
Do you guys think we should all be using DuckDuckGo for our searches in our browser?
I do.
Yeah.
Dude, the search quality is actually better, in my opinion, now than Google. It wasn't before. It is now. I actually depend on DuckDuckGo for better.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I do. And I've been using it for a while. And I had just noticed recently, probably in the last 6 months, especially as Google has been ramping up the use of Gemini in their search engine.
Yeah.
Spit out these what do you call them? Overviews. It's shifted the other way. And I have to admit, Google had a better search. I like
how DuckDuckGo, whenever you go to a site, has whatever the little icon, and it tells you all the different sites that are trying to track you with cookies and stuff that it's blocking. It's pretty cool. I like that.
I like that.
Check it out.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you go to sites that are unrelated to anything, and all of a sudden it's DuckDuckGo's like Amazon, Google, all these different companies are trying to track you from this web page that is seemingly unrelated to those worlds, and it's like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, DuckDuckGo shuts it all down, which it's part of the solution, right? It's part of the answer. Yeah, for sure. It's a scary world out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You have to live in a Faraday cage.
Sort of. I don't know. It's like weird coming from technologists, right? I mean, we saying, "Hey, technology first." I mean, friggin' throw crap up against the wall and see what sticks. It's at the end of the day, that ends up working anyways, right?
I think this is related with what you were mentioning at the beginning, right? With the PayPal mafia. At the end, one of the possible features. I was talking with Misha Dollar some weeks ago, and he was explaining 3 potential features that he see, And actually, the second potential feature that he saw, it's like, this PayPal mafia and Elon Musk and so on, getting super rich and control, 99% of the money of the world themselves. So basically, this is what they want, right? So they want to controlling the searches, everything, all the data that you generate, that they can control what you want to do, what you want to buy, when do you want to buy it, tomorrow or today, and get richer and richer.
Yeah. Debbie, you were saying something?
No, I would say, I don't know, I guess, what's what I'm looking for? I guess I see 2 things happening. One is people want less of that, right? They want less of the overlord, company that does everything. And so the powers to be, that's what they want. But I think that people are trying to go another way. Whether it's doing less, giving less, doing different things, using different products, maybe smaller products, things that are more conducive to what you want to do, as opposed to being part of this whole massive, ecosystem. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I don't know what you all's thoughts are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I feel like maybe a microcosm of this is sort of Twitter, in my view. And so the idea is that Twitter is supposed to be like this public square, but it's like, who's in the square? It's like, I'm not in the square. You know what I'm saying? Like, is the square a bunch of bots that are being told what to do by someone? Like, these aren't people that I know, and this is not what they think, So I think we're going to a very niche type of world, even though we do have companies that have the money and power to try to do this. Let's be everything. Let's take everything. Let's be the keeper of all your data and all this stuff. And I feel like people are like, yeah, I don't really want that. Maybe I want something different.
Yeah, you commented on a post about big tech, right? You flagged me on that.
Yeah.
Your comment was interesting. I mean, I think big tech is going. You said that in 2025, big tech is I think gone, or is going to have a tough.
No, that was the Wired article. They always this is like they want eyeballs on articles, right? So
yeah, they're stirring the pot.
Yeah, they're like, hey, by 2025, big tech is over. I was like, I think that's actually going to come true, but I do think, I think we're moving toward more niche. I'm seeing this in the marketing brand space, where companies used to spend a lot of money, say, I'm picking on Twitter again. Hey, let me buy millions of dollars of Twitter ads, and we're gonna get all these people. And what they're seeing a lot of times is like, that money isn't well spent because they're not getting the return. And so what these brands are doing, they're really going out to more of these niche players, because people are in these little pockets. So they're trying to get people who are more influential in these little smaller pockets, because they feel like it's more bang for their buck because it's hard to find these communities where we
There's a-
all thought
Yeah.
everyone is on Facebook, everybody's on Twitter. And that's just not true. People are just, there's a decentralization. While people are trying to force it more centralization, there's actually a decentralization happening where
That's
people are
right.
kind of more dispersed and it's hard to get those people and find those people. So I think it's going to be a challenge in the future.
That's
Well,
interesting.
Yeah, because we did a piece on Debbie, you and I did a piece on synthetic engagement, right? And that's what a lot of these big tech companies have to do. And the big disappointment about Elon taking over Twitter, and I'm sure that you're pissing him off by calling it Twitter instead of X. But these guys have to expand the real estate, otherwise their growth stops. And so a lot of it is probably going to become just a synthetic stuff that doesn't have any substance, but they try to sell it, right? It should be dilutive, and it probably is, and that's probably what you're speaking about, or at least that side effect on their businesses as they continue to pump like fake stuff engagement or synthetic engagement into their networks. And now advertisers are looking for legitimate, substantial communities. And I think that's a huge, a big, important term that you just raised that are comprised of people, not bots, right? Because bots, unless the proxy of somebody who's trying to do something at scale, doesn't represent an individual's actual need at the moment, right?
And just for all you lay people joining us, if you're wondering how does a bot happen on Twitter, the answer is Twitter years ago created an API so that you could programmatically communicate with Twitter. And so as soon as you have an API, then that opens the door to having fake robotic people that aren't real software agents start sending stuff, right? And that's kind of where you get bots. Like before Twitter, if you don't have an API, it's hard to have bots because it's all just really human generated. And so it's a tough thing because people beg for an API, right? Oh, remember when people were building their own Twitter clients and stuff like that, and there was TweetDeck and all those kind of things. But that's people use. So an interesting thing that we've probably all been witnessing the last few weeks is a whole lot of people coming out and saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm out of here. I'm going to Blue Sky," and they say why they're going, and some of it I think is virtue signaling. Other might be legitimate stuff, but they want to show all their friends that how much they hate Elon Musk or something, and so they're going to Blue Sky. What I find ironic, a lot of people beat up on Elon about he fired so many people at Twitter and everything like that, and what an idiot. Blue Sky is currently operating with 20 people. Let that sink in. What Elon said he saw when he got to Twitter is he saw all kinds of people there that were connected to different social issues and all kinds of stuff related to running a technology platform, and that's when he kind of started shopping, which I guess is foreshadowing Doge with he and Vivek Ramaswamy, that are going to start taking a hatchet right to government agencies in the United States, right? As far as, their new administration.
Yeah.
The kitchen sink, right?
But let me ask you this. Does
Yeah.
this guy, do they have advertising yet? I don't know.
I don't know if they do or not. It's funny.
They'll change. You need a sales force, right?
I remember when I got in trouble with our good friend, Mr. Bellata, early on when I said IoT is like Twitter. And it really is. At least the message broker part of it. You have publishers, you have subscribers.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember crafting a document, and then I started, and Marc does this too. You can write your own Twitter platform software, and it's remarkably similar to an IoT kind of message broker platform, actually. Or if you didn't want to write your own software, you could probably just grab one of these MQTT brokers that are pub sub, and you can make that into Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter was originally just built for fun. those guys were just having fun and just building something for themselves. And then it just got popular. Maybe we should build our own Twitter. Just IoT turns into Twitter. We could do that.
I did.
Yeah. But when I think about, and I don't want to just say it's all so easy, because there's other considerations like scale, but that's kind of what the Blue Sky people did. If you're in Blue Sky, you'll see that operates pretty much exactly like Twitter does, right? You've got people who are logged in and they can push something out there, and you have people who like and follow those people. That's just like pub sub. That's like you're subscribing to a topic in IoT. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. If you read, and so the woman who's the CEO of Blue Sky, she openly talks on there what's going on, and she's like, oh my gosh, ever since the election happened, lots of people are coming to Blue Sky, and I need more servers.
Yeah,
you got to buy more servers. It reminds me of watching Social Network with Zuckerberg talking to Eduardo. Okay, here we need some more money to buy some more servers. We just brought this other university online, and we're getting hammered. We need more servers, And so it's interesting to see Blue Sky as a little tiny startup, and as it's adding, millions or tens of millions of people in a short period of time. How they deal with scale. If you remember the early days of Twitter, do you ever? A lot of these platforms, remember, they all just started on the web before they had an app. Do you remember in Twitter a long time ago, you'd see a fail whale graphic come on the screen?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's because of errors and scalability problems. So it was just like, oh my God, there's now 100 million people, but the software and the servers can only handle 20 million, whatever. And so you kept seeing the fail whale all the time. It was also because they originally built it on Ruby on Rails, which is an easy way to build something fast, but it's not fast. It's not scalable. It's not great software, And so I remember when they rewrote it, I think in Java, actually. I'm just rambling here. This is more tech history, but tech architecture and stuff like that. And so this is something, but we're all watching this happen in real time. There is this movement to Blue Sky. Now, Blue Sky, what are they going to do next? It's going to be like that scene in Social Network where Eduardo comes in and says, it's time to monetize the site.
Yeah.
And that's got to happen for Blue Sky if they want to survive. And so
what they should do? They should just, again, put out a subscription. Some people pay it.
Make the whole thing paid?
People really want to avoid having to deal with the advertisers and to have advertisers poison that network. Pay a subscription. It's like friggin', and if you don't like them, go somewhere else.
And what was the other thing that irritated people who originally loved Twitter and they originally loved Facebook is when they started introducing algorithms and to say the algorithm's going to decide what you're seeing in your feed versus, remember in the old days, it was just kind of sequential. It was just your friends.
Your friends.
And it was just based on timestamps, historical. And people love that.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't good for making money.
Now it's super aggressive, the Twitter algorithm, actually.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Well, LinkedIn too. LinkedIn has changed tremendously. Yeah. I mean, I have my audience on LinkedIn organic. That was before they really went bonkers with the algorithms. And that's how I grew my audience. And people were really interested in what I was saying. And then they started layering all these other, controls as well as filters. And next thing you know, they're controlling the conversation rather than empowering the community to, reward or have people that they want to follow be visible. I've actually had people say, how come you don't post anything on LinkedIn anymore? I was like, you got to be effing kidding me, right? And it's the algorithm that hides it. And you can see it in the type of post. If I put a post of like, some delicious looking food or a car, dude, I'll just get ridiculous, views.
Right.
But then if I put anything serious, it's like friggin' fraction.
Yeah. You were right. The most important post of your life, you spent hours crafting it and like 5 people like it. But if you put something stupid on there, a million people like it.
And it wasn't like that on LinkedIn before. I used to get hundreds and hundreds of likes and reposts, everything.
Yeah.
And now you have to pay LinkedIn because now it's become an ad engine, and it's pretty much
so why don't we do this, since we're smarter than most everybody on the planet here at IoT Coffee Talk. Over the weekend, we'll put together our own version of Twitter software, and we'll put it out there, and then following Leonard's idea, we'll make it a subscription-based thing, but it doesn't but cheap. Like, will you pay 99 cents a month? Sure. Whatever. We'll figure some number up, but it's got to be so inexpensive that people are like, okay, no big deal. And then we'll just keep it sequential.
Yeah.
So you see your friends and stuff like that.
We'll use all of the non-accelerated computing data centers that are going to be dirt cheap, and are actually scalable.
Yeah.
They're already scaled out. So
yeah,
we'll just take all of that while everyone else is pursuing the accelerated computing that costs a crap ton of money, and will require nuclear power to power all these things.
Exactly. We won't need nuclear power for ours.
We'll just use whatever is left, and
we'll just have hamsters in the hamster wheel generating electricity for ours. That's all we need.
Yeah. What do you think, Debbie? Sound like a plan?
I like the idea.
And we'll have to reach out to all our friends, and then we'll have different groups and topics and stuff like that over time, and we can drill into things like that, and it'll be just like Jack Dorsey and all them talked about. They built Twitter for fun, just for each other to communicate with their buddies, and it could be like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you watch Facebook now. And I have friends that say, I'm counting how many posts of ads or these groups or whatever I see between when I see something from a friend. And some people are like, yeah, I counted 10 or I counted 15 before I saw something from an actual human being again. Which is interesting because in the near term, it's boosting profits for Zuck. But if it goes on too long, it could kill Facebook, because people will throw up their hands and go, I don't even know why I'm here, but I know why some of the stuff you're seeing on Facebook is there. They're competing. In fact, everyone arguably might be competing with a monster that is overwhelming all of social media in a totally different way, and that's TikTok. TikTok came out of left field. ByteDance, those guys are AI geniuses. And then they built TikTok using their AI engine. And the way they attract people isn't based on your friends. They attract people based on, these are the videos and the kind of things that we know through our AI that you want to look at. And it totally, I would highly recommend, we all listen to podcasts. I love the Acquired podcast by the two guys from Madrona Ventures. The recent one is about Meta and Zuck specifically. And so there's some interesting behind the scenes deals, but they talked about how they're able to counter things like Snapchat came up or others, and they would just copy their features and put them into Facebook. And that's how they would succeed, because it was still based on social networking. TikTok is a different animal altogether. It's not based on friends. I mean, you can have friends, but it's based on something totally different. And so, and it's grabbing eyeballs. In the end, this is all about eyeballs for them, right? For advertising. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think it's a great application of psyops type methods. When it no longer becomes about your friends and your connections and people, and it's all about like base interests. That's like getting in the minds of people. Do you know what I'm saying? Rather than providing a tool for people to connect and have, community.
You're right. To get into minds of people, and TikTok does that very well.
Yeah, it's like a blend. Actually, now that you think about it, now that you say it, it's like a blend of YouTube and what Facebook does, and that's why YouTube and Facebook have been trying to converge their stuff into something that looks like TikTok, right? I mean, TikTok is still, yeah. I mean, both sides are still struggling to replicate what TikTok has done. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Tensions economy.
Yeah. All right. On that note, I think that's an episode. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone who actually celebrates it and cares about it. We do. And we hope you have a wonderful holiday season. We're going to still plow through the season with episodes of IoT Coffee Talk because we're just persistent that way. And we hope that you look forward to our special holiday episodes, especially the Christmas one where we do, a really terrible version of Jingle Bells. You don't want to miss out on that one, And then, of course, our New Year's special. So you'll want to tune into those. And remember, this is the season of giving. So please consider giving to Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org. And remember, if you're not into charity but into fashion, let's say that you don't have the Christmas spirit, but you like to look good, pick up some IoT Coffee Talk merch on the Elevate Our Kids website, and you will indirectly be helping kids K through 12 in underserved and unserved communities participate in our digital everything, our wonderful digital world, and be connected.
I wonder, Leonard, should we come up with like IoT Coffee Talk Christmas socks? Yeah, people love to wear silly socks,
You never know.
That's a very good idea.
Or a toque, a hat, the toboggan hats and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that could
quite honestly, in a TikTok world, that might do it.
Might do it. And then the weirdest thing I just saw here, and it shows you how distorted my brain is. When I saw Marc there, you did the jingle bells, and I think Marc was maybe kind of doing a jingle bell thing. But you know what my brain thought he was doing? Whooped up Gangnam style. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, he blew up. Man, Psy blew up and he brought K-pop to the entire universe.
That totally blew up out of nowhere.
It was TikTok?
No, it was way before TikTok.
No, it was YouTube. But
it was YouTube. Yeah.
Debbie, so glad that Friday is working out for you. So anyways, happy holidays, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Adios.